So I've got my Conquest Pro shell currently drying after giving it a yellow coat of paint. So in the meanwhile, I have all the internals exposed right here. I might as well take the time to talk about what I want to see in terms of like mod kits or mod parts for the Conquest Pro. Because honestly, it's a blaster that could, really benefit from things like, I guess I'll give out the main things that have to be, like modded out for. First and foremost, of course, the trigger. Obviously, with plastic over time, the release area over here might very well just wear out over time. So having a metal replacement for this guy, and also giving it a fresh new style, would definitely help out in terms of longevity and just looks. The catch as well, obviously could use the metal treatment. This plastic is sturdy, though being transparent, I don't think it's as sturdy as, say, it's hard, catch cap right here. So having something with a metal option or a thicker plastic option will really also increase the longevity here. So yeah. The third item, surprisingly, is not just the catch release, but in general the whole SlamFire system. This is the SlamFire rod, in which obviously when you pull back on the priming block right here, we'll push this guy back and set it behind the trigger. And then obviously once you pull the priming block forward, it will be, or basically, when you pull it back, it goes somewhere out here. When you pull it forward, it's right here. So the moment you pull the trigger, it pushes up and releases the catch. And that's also how SlamFire works, since it has basically just both of these on one pulley right here. The moment you pull the priming block forward, as the trigger is depressed, the catch will fly up, or the catch release will fly up and will release the catch. And as long as you just keep on pumping your Conquest Pro, that's how the SlamFire is going to work. So definitely these points of contacts right here will wear down over time, especially if you upgrade the spring. So having metal replacements for these guys will be really great over time. Same thing with this guy, mainly because I don't trust this little nub right here being the one thing that the priming block has to grip onto in order to pull back and forward. Considering how much space is beneath the priming block, if you can see right here, this whole area, having one that might be a bit wider and obviously metal will definitely make it a lot more reliable in the long run. I'm not sure if we really need some sort of replacement for this guy, since it does fit well into the Talon mags. And if for some reason your Talon mag blocks this guy from moving upwards, then maybe hitting the little curved, the curved area of your Talon mag with a bit of sandpaper to just grind it down will help out in making this guy just feed through the lips of the magazine a lot better. But outside of that, I'm not sure what else could be done. Maybe a change in the design right here, adding some sort of like a little back wall right here, so that when you lift the dart up, if for some reason if you don't complete the prime, the dart has a chance of sliding down and therefore not catching well inside the system. So when you try and close it, the system would actually get stuck somewhere around here. It happens rarely, but when it does happen, it's quite annoying to deal with. So, maybe an improved way of lifting up the darts would help out as well. Of course, onto the plunger system. Honestly, the plunger rod and tube are great enough as is. As I said, with just one layer of Teflon tape that I put on the breech O-ring and one layer that I put on the plunger head. It has great air retention, and then even when pushing it in, there's a lot of resistance going on. So, I mean, this plunger tube here could use the metal treatment or a harder plastic treatment, but the plunger head itself is fine. People still have the freedom to 3D print a new one, or probably, make a new injection molded variant if, we really need it or really want it. So honestly, this system right here is good as is. Maybe a different, front end right here would help out in terms of pushing this guy down when you load the dart into it using the little hook. So that would work out well. Quite obviously, new barrel material always helps out. Replacing this one from Dart Zone with, brass maybe. I'm not sure how well brass will do in a fast firing SlamFire system, but maybe that'll work. or any other things like, I've seen the monkey mod barrels pull off and such. Obviously a new, dart, I guess, dart loading bay where the dart gets into before it gets shot out through the metal barrel might help as well, because I've seen these crack before, like up here or around here, if you put too much friction in them with a heavy barrel or something. So that could also be a good place to replace as well. One of the biggest things I want to see changed up is the magazine release. Because right now what you have to do whenever you reload the blaster is that you have to reach your finger around or put two hands on it, one holding the blaster from the back and the other one grabbing onto here and pulling it back in order to pull down these mag releases. It's uncomfortable for someone like me. So if we're able to make a system where like it wraps around the blaster and goes down near to the trigger guard at, kind of like a hook that we could just pull back on, similar to, let me go get it real quick, the regulator, which you could see here in the magazine wall. You have the trigger up here and the mag release down here. Granted, rather than having the mag release be something that you push in on, the Conquest Pro actually has a large enough well. Let me pull up the grip here. There we go. A large enough, long enough well that over here is where the trigger's at. But up here, you could put, a little hook that connects the magazine release to it. Let me set it in like that. So that's how it is when you want to reload. You have to like hold it on with one hand and then use the other hand to push this guy down. But overall, though, making something that just turns this into like a wraparound thing on the blaster that leaves a little hook down here would make it so much easier to reload, because instead of having to use two hands and reach all the way up here to pull this guy back, you could simply just move your finger from the trigger position up to the magazine position and then just pull it back like that. Make it a lot more easier to reload. So yeah, that's about it in terms of what I want to see. Obviously, metal SLAMFIRE rod, metal catch, metal trigger, possibly a better loading arm that flings the dart into the little cup before the breech seals that, and maybe a new design or just a sturdier plastic or metal design for this priming block that does all that operation, because as is, it's a bit flimsy and bendy and whatnot. So over time, I'm pretty sure this thing's gonna snap at some point if you try and modify the spring or change out the spring in general or any of the heavy parts. So making a replacement for this guy will help out as well. In terms of the spring, it is honestly a different design that I've not seen before. And I guess we might as well measure it out right here. In terms of length, the spring comes in at 16 centimeters. So I'm not going to do it in inches. We Americans can figure it out. Whoops! But yeah, 16 inches is the length. In terms of the width, we are coming in at about 20, 21, 22, around 24 millimeters, honestly. It looks almost like 2.5 centimeters, but it's tough to tell. But that's outer diameter. Inner diameter is for sure 20 millimeters or 2 centimeters. So there you go. It's 16 in diameter, in the length. OD is around 2.5 to 24 millimeters, and the ID is somewhere around 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters. So there's a look at the spring. I'm not sure about compression or anything because I'm not well versed in that system, but it is larger than the Nexus Pro and smaller than the Aeon Pro. So maybe something like K25 or K26 will work in this guy for upgrades. But for downgrades, I definitely want to see some stuff, because having a system that's this cheap and already providing SLAMFIRE at high velocities is great. But if you want to run this with talons in like an HVZ, like N-War or such, it's hitting too hard. So making a downgrade spring for this guy will help out in making it a lot more HVZ friendly. Bringing it down to 120 or 110 should very much help out in making this blaster more acceptable beyond just super stock. Overall, though, that's all I wanted to say about the Conquest Pro. It really could use some love, as we've done with the Nexus and the Aeon Pro. It's a weird blaster, but I hope that because of that weirdness, it does not get left behind, but rather gets embraced and sees these changes with it. This has been Spartan412, and so with that being said, I don't know, Worker, Foam Blast, Out of Darts, if you're watching this, who knows, maybe it's time to start tinkering with this guy if you guys manage to get your early review versions.